I'll never forget the moment my sister announced her engagement at our family dinner. My father's eyes filled with tears as he stood up, raised his glass, and promised her the wedding of her dreams. "Nothing is too good for my princess," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. Everyone clapped. My mother cried happy tears, and I sat there smiling, forcing down the lump in my throat, because all I could think about was how different it had been when I got married 3 years ago. Growing up, there was always a clear division in our house. My sister Emma was the princess, the one who needed protecting, the one who got the fancy birthday parties and the car for her 16th birthday. I was the responsible one, the strong one, the one who didn't need help. Dad would tell me constantly how proud he was that I could handle things on my own, that I was the man of the house, whenever he traveled for work. At first, I thought it was a compliment. It took me years to realize it was just his way of justifying why he gave her everything and expected me to fend for myself. When I met Sarah in college, I knew immediately she was the one. We dated for 4 years, built a life together, moved in after graduation, and when I proposed on a random Tuesday in our tiny apartment kitchen, she cried for an hour straight. It wasn't fancy. There was no photographer hiding in the bushes, just her, me, and a ring I'd saved for 8 months to buy. It was perfect. Our wedding was small and intimate. We got married in a public garden with 30 of our closest friends and family. Sarah wore a simple dress she found on sale for $300. I wore the only suit I owned. Her best friend did her makeup. We exchanged vows we wrote ourselves under an arch we decorated with flowers from the farmer's market. It was the happiest day of my life. My father showed up 20 minutes late. He sat in the back row, checked his phone during the ceremony, and left right after dinner without saying goodbye to most of our guests. His wedding gift to us was a check for $500 and a card that said, "Best wishes on your future together." No speech, no father-son moment, no tears. When I tried to talk to him about it later, he brushed it off. "You know I'm not good with emotional stuff," he said. Besides, it was a nice little ceremony, very casual. That word haunted me for months. Casual, like our love was something temporary, something that didn't deserve to be taken seriously. Now, watching him plan Emma's wedding, I was seeing just how serious a wedding could be when he actually cared. The venue alone cost $40,000. Her dress was custom made by a designer whose name I couldn't even pronounce, with a price tag of $15,000. There would be 300 guests, a 12-piece orchestra, a 5-course meal prepared by a Michelin star chef, and an open bar stocked with premium liquor. Every time Emma mentioned another detail, Dad just smiled and said, "Whatever you want, sweetheart. This is your special day." I received my invitation in the mail like everyone else. Formal, embossed, with my name printed in elegant script. I wasn't asked to help plan. I wasn't consulted about dates or colors or themes. I was just another guest, except I was expected to be grateful for the privilege of watching my sister get everything I never had. One afternoon, about 2 months before the wedding, I was having lunch with my father at his favorite restaurant. He was showing me photos on his phone of the cake samples Emma had tried, going on and on about the sugar flowers and the imported vanilla. I don't know what possessed me to ask, but the words came out before I could stop them. "Dad, you remember my wedding?" He looked up from his phone, confused. "Of course I do. What do you remember about it?" He shifted in his seat, suddenly uncomfortable. "Well, it was nice. You looked good. The garden was pleasant. Did you like it?" "Sure, son. It was fine." "Just fine?" He put his phone down, and I could see him measuring his words carefully. "Look, I know you and Sarah are happy, and that's great. But your wedding was... I don't know how to say this without hurting your feelings. Say it. It just didn't feel like a real wedding to me. It was so small, so informal. There was no tradition, no ceremony. It felt more like a backyard party than a marriage. And I worry that maybe you rushed into it, you know? Young love can be impulsive. Real weddings, they have weight to them. They make a statement. Yours was just so casual. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My hands started shaking, and I had to grip my napkin under the table to keep from losing it right there in the restaurant. I mumbled something about needing to use the restroom, grabbed my wallet and left without finishing my meal. I don't think he even noticed I didn't come back. I drove home in a blur, barely seeing the road through the anger and hurt. When I walked through the door, Sarah took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. I tried to hold it together, I really did. I made it to the couch before I completely broke down. She sat next to me, her hand on my back, and I told her everything. Every word he'd said, every implication that our marriage, our love, somehow wasn't legitimate because we didn't throw a six-figure party. "He's wrong," Sarah said quietly, her voice steady, even though I could see tears in her eyes. "Our love is real. Our marriage is real. You don't need his validation, and you definitely don't need to prove anything to him." But that was the problem. The person whose validation I wanted most was the one person who refused to give it. I was 30 years old, successful in my career, happily married, and I still felt like a little boy desperate for his father's approval. A few weeks later, I found out by accident exactly how much Dad was spending on Emma's wedding: $200,000. I saw the invoice on his desk when I stopped by the house to drop off some documents he'd asked for. $200,000 on a single day. I'd put myself through college on scholarships and student loans. I'd worked 2 jobs to save for a down payment on our first apartment. Sarah and I had paid for our entire wedding ourselves, and it cost less than Emma's dress. And here he was, dropping the equivalent of a down payment on a house for one party. The irony wasn't lost on me. He'd always told me I was the strong one, the independent one, the one who didn't need help. But maybe what he really meant was that I was the one he didn't want to help. 2 weeks before the wedding, Emma called me. She was excited, talking a mile a minute about last-minute details and seating arrangements. Then she asked if I'd be willing to give a speech at the reception. "It would mean so much to have my big brother say something," she said. "You've always been there for me." I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell her that I couldn't stand up in front of 300 people and celebrate a wedding that cost 400 times what mine did while pretending everything was fine. But instead, I said yes. Because that's what I always did. I swallowed my feelings and showed up for my family, even when they never showed up for me. The wedding rehearsal was held at the venue 2 days before the ceremony. It was more elaborate than most actual weddings I'd been to. As I watched the wedding planner direct everyone to their positions, watched my father fuss over every detail, watched him tear up during the practice vows, something inside me snapped. During a break, Dad gathered everyone together and gave an impromptu speech about how he'd dreamed of this day since Emma was born, how he'd always wanted to give his daughter the perfect wedding, how proud he was to see her marrying someone who truly loved her. "This is what a real wedding looks like," he said, gesturing to the opulent ballroom around us. "This is how you celebrate real love." I stood up and walked out. I didn't excuse myself. I didn't explain. I just left. I made it to the parking lot before I heard footsteps behind me. "Hey, where are you going?" Dad called out. "The rehearsal isn't over." I turned to face him, and for the first time in my life I didn't try to hide what I was feeling. "I can't do this." "Can't do what? It's just a rehearsal." "No, Dad, I can't stand here and watch you pour $200,000 into Emma's wedding while you spent my entire marriage telling me mine wasn't real." His face went pale. "I never said that." "Yes, you did. You said it was casual. You said it wasn't a real wedding. You said young love is impulsive. You've said it a dozen different ways. And every single time the message was the same. My marriage doesn't count because I didn't spend a fortune on it." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" "Because from where I'm standing it looks pretty clear. You gave Emma everything and me nothing. And now you're spending enough money to change someone's life on a single party, while I had to beg you to even stay for dessert at mine." He tried to speak, but I wasn't done. "Do you know what the worst part is? It's not even the money. I don't care about the money. It's that you looked at the happiest day of my life and decided it wasn't good enough. You looked at Sarah, the woman I love more than anything in this world, and decided our relationship wasn't serious because we didn't perform it for 300 people. You've spent 3 years making me feel like my marriage is somehow less legitimate than whatever Emma's about to have, and I'm done pretending it doesn't hurt." My father stood there in the parking lot, his mouth opening and closing like he wanted to respond but couldn't find the words. Finally, he said, "I didn't realize you felt this way. How could you not realize? I've been invisible to you my entire life unless I was being useful. Emma got the attention, the money, the support. I got told I was strong enough to handle things on my own. Well, congratulations, Dad. I did handle it. I built a great life. I married an incredible woman. And I did it all without you. But it would have been nice just once to feel like you actually cared." I got in my car and drove away. My phone buzzed with texts from Emma, from my mom, even from Sarah asking if I was okay. I didn't answer any of them. I just drove. The wedding happened without me. Well, I was there, but not as the supportive big brother giving a speech. Sarah and I showed up as guests, sat in the back, and left right after the ceremony. We didn't stay for the reception, didn't eat the expensive food, didn't dance to the 12-piece orchestra. We just went home. My phone blew up for days afterward. Emma was hurt. Mom was disappointed, but Dad didn't call. Not for 3 weeks. When he finally did call, I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. "I've been thinking about what you said," he started, his voice rough. "And I went back and looked at the photos from your wedding. Really looked at them. I didn't say anything. You were happy," he continued. "I mean, really genuinely happy. I'd never seen you smile like that. And Sarah, she looked at you like you were her entire world. I sat there going through those photos for hours. And I realized something. I was so focused on what I thought a wedding should look like that I completely missed what was actually happening. You weren't just getting married. You were choosing a partner, building a life, committing to something real. And I dismissed all of that because it didn't fit my idea of what was proper." My throat felt tight. I still didn't speak. "I'm sorry," he said, and his voice broke. "I'm so sorry. I failed you. Not just at your wedding, but your whole life. I told myself I was teaching you to be independent, to be strong, but really I was just neglecting you. I gave Emma everything because I thought she needed it, and I gave you nothing because I convinced myself you didn't. But you needed me too. You deserved to have a father who showed up, who celebrated you, who made you feel valued. And I didn't do that. I can't take it back and I can't fix it. But I need you to know that I see it now. I finally see you." I sat there in my car, parked outside the grocery store, tears streaming down my face. This was what I'd wanted my entire life, to be seen, to be valued, to matter to him. "I don't know if I can forgive you right away," I finally said. "This isn't something that just goes away because you apologize. I know, but I appreciate you saying it, and I appreciate you finally looking at my wedding and seeing what it actually was. Would you be willing to have dinner sometime? You and Sarah? I'd like to get to know her better. Really know her, not just surface-level small talk." I thought about it. Part of me wanted to say no to protect myself from more disappointment, but another part of me, the part that still wanted a relationship with my father, said, "Yeah, we can do that." It's been 6 months since that phone call. Things aren't perfect. They probably never will be. There's too much history, too many years of feeling invisible. Too many moments where I needed him and he wasn't there. But we're trying. He calls more often now. He asks about my life, my work, my marriage. He apologized to Sarah directly, which meant more to her than I expected. We have dinner once a month. And slowly, carefully, we're building something new. It's not the relationship I had with him before, because that relationship was based on me constantly trying to earn approval I was never going to get. This new relationship is based on honesty, on me being willing to say when something hurts, and on him being willing to listen. It's harder this way, more vulnerable, but it's also more real. Emma and I are working on things too. She didn't understand why I left her wedding, and it took a long conversation for her to realize that she'd been complicit in the favoritism, even if she hadn't meant to be. She'd just accepted that she deserved more, while I'd accepted that I deserved less. We're both unlearning those patterns now. Here's what I learned from all of this. Love doesn't need a price tag. Real love, the kind that lasts, the kind that weathers storms and builds futures, doesn't require a $200,000 party to prove it exists. My marriage to Sarah is more real, more solid, more meaningful than any ceremony could ever make it. We chose each other in that public garden 3 years ago, and we choose each other every single day. And family, real family, shows up, not just at the big moments, not just when it's convenient or impressive. Real family sees you, values you, makes space for you. If they're not doing that, it's okay to walk away until they learn how. I'm not the strong, independent son who doesn't need anything anymore. I'm a man who deserves to be loved, supported, and celebrated by his family. And I'm finally at a place where I believe that. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever had to fight to be seen and valued, I want you to know you're not alone. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell, because we share real stories about real families, about the messy, complicated, painful process of learning to love each other better. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever been the forgotten child in your family? Let's talk about it. Until next time, remember that your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. It's determined by how you treat yourself.